Hello and welcome to Genevora's running commentary number 24. Now the reason these are called running commentaries is partly because I like running and I find that when I am running I get a lot of my good ideas, or I manage to piece things together and make sense of them. And that's partly because I've just got time on my own, and it's partly because my body is going through the running motion, which helps your brain to think. And it's partly because when you run, you get full of endorphins. So everything's on your side. Today, I want to talk about what we can learn from sport. When we look at sport research, there's obviously been a lot more money put into that than there has into research into musicians. And what we can learn, for example, we've learned about motor skills and how the brain learns things, and that we're actually much more efficient at learning if we focus on the outcome rather than the process. For example, if you are wanting to make your sound darker or brighter by moving your larynx higher or lower in your vocal tract, think about the quality of sound you want to make and your larynx will probably go to the right place. If you think about where your larynx goes, you're much more likely to get stiff and tense and get in the way of yourself. And another thing we've learned from sport is injury prevention and warming up. And we've learned how the metabolic function of the muscles is much more efficient when we've started our singing practice with small and gentle movements, rather than going straight in for high notes or long notes or anything more difficult. Other things I've learned from sport, from my own sporting attempts, and I have to put this in perspective, I was never any good at any sport at school. I was never in a team for anything. I was never represented the school. I never achieved anything at all in sport. Didn't really enjoy it very much. I loved dancing, but I didn't like sport. Now I've come to it later in life. I've learned what fun there is to be had. I've learned that, for example, swimming training, you do drills and you break down the process, the stroke, and you will do a small repeated action over and over again, which will make a slight adjustment to your technique. Then when you incorporate that back into the stroke, you find that you've adjusted it, maybe to do with the twist of your body in the water, it may be to do with the angle of pull of your hand. It'll be a tiny detail, but adjusting that tiny detail will make you a little bit more efficient, which will make you go a little bit further, a little bit faster. The same with learning singing technique. Another thing that I've learned is about injury. And all athletes get injuries, some small, some niggling, some ongoing, some more major that can immobilize you for a while. It's not a stigma. There's no fault attached to injury. But we learn that if you overuse your body or you misuse it, you are more likely to get an injury. And also, I have found that every time I've had a significant injury is when I've combined overuse with some kind of emotional anxiety. And if I'm upset about something, I will hurt myself. Finally, I've learned about stamina and endurance. And what keeps you going in a long run is not so much fitness and technique, but beyond a certain point, it's just attitude. It's just wanting to keep going. And that kind of perseverance is something that you learn. Some people are better at it than others, but it's also easier if you've got company. So when you are doing something difficult in your singing practice or learning something difficult, if you can do it with somebody else or in a group, it's going to be much easier.